All right. Don't forget the microphone. Stay. Okay. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. For the purposes of this video review, I am not going to include any footage from the game because, as I am reminded from my last video, I will instantly get a copyright claim from Nintendo. Absolutely baffling, because really Nintendo should want as much footage of this game up on YouTube as possible right now, because first of all, it's freaking gorgeous, and you know, as people see what you can actually do in the game, I think they'll be enchanted and curious and fascinated and want to go explore and do those things themselves. Because it's beautiful and it's phenomenal and it's an incredible game that I just haven't been able to stop gushing about since I've started playing it. I've played on the Switch. I have not tried the Wii U version. I'm curious to try the Wii U version, but on the Switch, Breath of the Wild is something really unique and new and exciting. A lot of people have watched some of the gameplay footage and thought to themselves, oh well, this looks like Far Cry, or this looks like Skyrim. And yeah, it does have things from Far Cry and Skyrim in it. It's an open world. You climb towers, you do things like that. You gather ingredients and craft and make potions and meals. But it's also something completely different from those games. Basically, it takes that open world template and turns it on its head. It creates a game where the open world is itself a very carefully designed structure. There's not just big open spaces that are just there for the sake of big open spaces. I mean, a lot of open world games brag about how big they are. This game is big, but the bigness isn't really what's so wonderful about it. It's the ability to traverse the world in such interesting ways while you're constantly solving puzzles along the way. Every combat encounter feels like a puzzle. There's different ways to take on different enemies. There's different gear or tools you can use to help you against insurmountable foes. Dotted across the map are shrines, and each of these shrines is a different kind of puzzle. Some of them involve your stasis tool, which allows you to freeze certain objects, and then figuring out how you freeze those can change how you solve the puzzle, or you have to use, in some puzzles, all your different tools, your magnetic ability. There's one where there's a bunch of huge orbs rolling down constantly, and down a sort of not a waterfall, but a water-covered plain. And you have to figure out how to get one of these, a special one, into basically a little bowl, and that activates the gate. And to do this, you end up having to get that one rolling, and to do that you have to create an ice block which pops it off, and then that rolls down, but then you have to freeze it and hit it with your sword or your staff or whatever, and that knocks it a different direction. But just to get there, it's not obvious that these are the things you have to do. The towers that you climb, this is totally an homage to the Far Cry model of climbing towers, but the difference here is that there are so many puzzles involved, especially as these get more difficult, from enemies that you have to avoid, or things you have to get around, or they're just too high to climb. You don't have enough stamina to do it, because climbing involves stamina in this game, and you can climb anything, climb mountains, freeform climbing of any surface. Things will get in your way, like rain will make it slick, or it's just too high. But you have meals that you can eat that restore stamina. There are special powers you can get that help you get up distances that you wouldn't without those powers. And I won't go into more detail than that. But basically, everything you do is some sort of brain tease, which is really cool, because in a lot of games the climbing is really sort of just tedious and not very interesting. Think of Uncharted, you're just going from ledge to ledge, and you're just sort of pushing your thumbstick one way or the other, and you have a sort of set defined route you have to take. In Zelda, you can go any way you want. You can climb up a mountain and then leap off of it, and then land on a different one, and then go from there over to the tower, or there's just so many different possibilities of how you approach this game. And one of the neat things is that there's nothing really telling you not to do anything else. I mean, you can go anywhere. It's just a matter of getting there. And you may find that the enemies you're fighting are too tough. But then again, you may find that you can avoid them. There was one time where I was going across a bridge and I was pretty much out of arrows, and a bunch of the goblins and monsters on the other side were shooting bomb arrows back at me. So if I got too close, I would just die in a fiery death. And I really had no way of reaching them. I could throw bombs, but bombs don't do a lot of damage, and it was just, they weren't, the enemies are smart in this game. They'll actively avoid a bomb if they see it on the ground, which is kind of cool. So I just jumped off the bridge, flew over to a cliff, and climbed up it on the other side. I just avoided the enemies. And that's sort of the neat thing about this game, is that you have so many options on how to tackle anything. There's dungeons in the game that sort of form, they're not the main puzzle of the game. Like in older Zeldas, you know, you'd go through each dungeon and that was kind of the building block of the whole game. But these dungeons are important parts of the game, and they're really, really interesting, and they really take some thinking. They're not, you have all the tools at your disposal. You can tackle them in any order you want, but you will be stumped from time to time. And the same for the shrines. You will be stumped from time to time, and you'll have to give up sometimes. I mean, I've given up on some shrines just because they were taking too long and I wanted to go do something else. But the great thing is you can go do something else. You can wander wherever you like. But everywhere you go, there's a sense of discovery and wonder. Whether that's just climbing to the top of a mountain and looking out over the beautiful vista and just thinking, God, I could go over there, or look, a falling star fell over there. I'm gonna go see what landed. Or maybe you find a stable and a whole new mission branch opens up. Or you just go to a field and find some wild horses and decide you want to catch one of them and tame it. It's truly, it's hard to describe with words what this all feels like, because on the surface, you may say, oh, this looks like another open world game. What's so special about that? But once you start to dig into it and you realize just the craft that went into this, and the thought and every little detail. I mean, when I first started playing the game, you know, I walked outside and I found an axe sitting against, I don't even remember what it was sitting against something. I picked up the axe. I walked over, I saw a tree with apples in it. I thought, I'm going to hit this tree with the axe. And to my surprise, you can chop the tree down. I could have climbed the tree and picked the apples. Instead, I chopped it down and picked the apples up off the ground. Hell, you could blow the tree up with a bomb if you wanted to. You know, and right off the bat, I was scaling cliffs and going this way or that. I have explored different directions and gotten sidetracked so many times that I don't even know, you know, what I've missed in the game, because there's just so much of it. And the great thing is that you don't feel like what you're doing is just the same task over and over again. You feel like you're encountering new things and surprising things all the time. And some of it is just that getting around, climbing a pinnacle and looking around and then flying off on your paraglider. And then, you know, you may notice something as you fly, and so you drop down there and go investigate and check it out. And the landscapes change constantly from crazy rock formations jutting out like a stone forest to a volcanic peak where it gets really hot and you have to have something to protect yourself from the heat, or to snowy peaks where you get really cold and you have to survive that. And there's all sorts of different ways to do that, from outfits you can wear to potions you can drink, to the food you eat. So really, the variety of gameplay, the amount of just gaminess in this, and I'm not sure that's the right word, but a lot of modern games feel cinematic, sort of in a sort of artificial way, like big cutscenes that are cinematic, and, you know, lots of voice acting and things like that. And there are cutscenes and there is voice acting in this game, but that's limited, and they focus more on creating emergent experiences, emergent storytelling. And so everything feels so organic. It's very exciting. It feels, when I first played Dark Souls, I described it as sort of a retro feel. Like, it was so gamey rather than that sort of trend towards cinematic set pieces. And it doesn't hold your hand. It lets you go do and achieve on your own. And it's really cool that way. And there is something like Dark Souls. I'm not saying that the game's sort of, I mean, I think Zelda and Dark Souls have always been sort of similar games. in their own way. But this is even more so, and it's really because of this sort of, just here's the world, go out and explore it, and that's really cool. And it's old school and new. It's innovative and a throwback to a time, I think, when games didn't worry so much about big cinematic moments and instead sort of let you experience that yourself. And this does even more than those games we grew up on. So, I don't know how this performs on the Wii U, but on the Switch, the one thing that I would say is that it does have some frame rate issues, and those can be distracting, but not terribly distracting. It's not a first-person shooter or something that really requires the highest frame rate all the time. And I do hope that this is addressed by Nintendo, because when there's a big grassy field or a lot of stuff going on, rain falling, it can get a little janky. Other issues that people might find annoying are, weapons break a lot. So you're gonna be in the middle of a fight, your weapon's gonna break. You're gonna have to go get another one, get it out. And some fights I've been in, I've broken like 3 weapons, and switching to a new weapon over and over again can be frustrating. But it's part of the survival element of the game, and that's kind of cool too. There is a lot of cooking. You basically just take items out of your inventory and mix and match them, kind of like Skyrim or something. But you do this by tossing them into a cooking fire and just waiting to see what happens. And you can make some pretty helpful dishes or potions this way. But that can be, a little tedious. I've never been big into crafting. They do it very well here. It's very, very simple, very quick, but it still is you're gonna spend some time where you just sit at a cook fire cooking for a while, because you want to have those things to heal, things to boost your stamina, your cold resistance, your speed, stealth. There's all kinds of different things you can make, and it's all pretty straightforward. In any case, I've also posted my written review. I'll link to that. But I mean it when I say it. This is one of the best video games I've ever played. It's certainly my favorite Zelda, and it's one of those special games that you come across that you just know is unique and is going to change things. And every now and then you play a game where you're just sort of blown away, and this is it for me. So anyways, I will post more footage in other videos and just brace myself for the copyright claims, and pray to the spirits of Hyrule that Nintendo walks back its terrible YouTube policies. In the meantime, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I always forget to ask people to do that, but it would be really nice to have, maybe someday break like 3,000 subscribers, maybe even get into the double digits. I don't know. And, I'm also on Twitter, Facebook, Forbes. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll try to answer them about the Switch or Nintendo or Zelda or whatever. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and peace.